Okay, so in this week's guitar lesson, we're going to break down this country, rock, rockabilly, whatever style you want to call this lead. Note for note, I'm going to explain where all the notes come from and make everything relatable back to basic chord shapes. So if you can visualize your chord shapes, you can connect these licks to them and use them when you're improvising. And actually right at the beginning of this video, I'm going to explain a really cool thing you can do with 6-chord and 9-chord triads and working those into your leads. Very cool. So make sure you check that out. And so all of this is about playing chord changes and what that means when you're connecting your lead to the chords as the chords pass by in the song. So I've got this lesson split into 2 parts. In this video, we're going to go through the first half of the lead. If you'd like to watch the part 2 video, download the tablature, download the MP3 jam track, which I have in multiple tempos. You can get all of those extra materials by going to activemelody.com, go to the weekly lessons page, and do a search for EP555. Easy to remember, right? Okay, let me talk about my tone real quick. Somebody always asks, I'll be very brief. I'm playing through a line 6 Helix, which I have sitting on the floor in front of me. And I've been using that for the last 6 months or so. I really like it a lot. And the amp that I'm using, it's really just amp and reverb on the amp, but the amp is the AC30, or well, it's the AC30, which is a Vox amp, but they call it the A30 Fawn Norm, NRM, normal. So if you've got a Line 6 Helix, that's the amp that I'm using. That's really where most of the sound is coming. I have a plate reverb on as well, but the amp is at 50% in terms of overdrive. So the rest of it is really coming from this guitar, which has this killer pickup here, this humbucker in the bridge position. So, and I have it on that, and I have the tone all the way up, and I have the volume all the way up. So anyway, that's what's going on sound-wise. So this song is played in the key of E, but it modulates. So the first chord is an E, and then it goes to an F sharp. Now, in the key of E, F sharp would be minor by default, but we're going to go from the E to an F sharp major, which is modulating to a new key for that one moment in the song. But then after that, it goes to an A, which would be the 4 chord for the key of E, and then to the B, which is the 5 chord for the key of B, and then back to the E. So those are the chords. E, you go up a whole step to F sharp, then you go A, go up a whole step to B. So it's kind of easy to visualize those chords on the fretboard because of that. Okay, let's listen to the first part of this and then talk about what's going on. All right, so this first chord we're playing over is the E chord, and I played. Let's look at this first. And by the way, this comes in on the 2. So if you're counting this in, it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. So it comes in right on the 2. So the first thing I'm doing is playing the open G string, hammering onto the 1st fret 3rd string, and then playing 2 and 1, string 2 and 1. The open B and the open E string. And you can see what's going on there. I'm just playing the E, the top part of my E chord, but with the hammer on with the index finger. And then sliding up to this E, which is 5th fret 2nd string. So, and then index finger goes down in the 4th fret 1st string. Now that, when I played that, it's playing a harmony there, but if you think about your chord shapes, you've got your E chord, which I just played, and then I was thinking about the next E chord up the fretboard, which is this one. It's the same as your D shape. If you take that D shape, slide it up 2 frets, or that D triad, you get that. You get that. So if you're just playing strings 1 and 2, you have that harmony. So there's a little lick that kind of pulls from one chord to the next. All right, so this next lick goes like this. Now this is a great lick. If you get nothing else in this entire lesson, you got to walk away with this one idea. And so this is really based off of a 6-chord triad that I'm seeing. When I'm playing this lick, this is what I'm seeing. This is this triad here. And so that's an E6. So if you're playing that, if the band is playing an E chord, or even the bass player is playing an E note, if I play this triad, which is a minor triad, I realize, but if I play that over the E chord, I get an E6 sound. So inside of a 6 chord is a minor triad, and that happens to be the relative minor of E, for those of you that are kind of keeping up with that stuff. So, but anyway, look at the shape there, 4th fret, 5th fret, 6th fret, string 1, 2, and 3. Real easy to see, it's a little stair step shape, and that when played with the E, is a 6 chord. If I move any 6 triad that I play, if I move it down 2 frets this direction, I'm playing a 9 chord, or a 9 triad. So if I have the E in the bass, and I play that, now I've got an E9 sound. So my point in saying this is, these next few licks we're going to be playing, they're kind of based off of this principle of this 6 triad and this 9 triad. So this is my E6 sound. Now if I wanted the E9 sound, I could go. You can hear that sound. That's an E9. Now I'm doing both off of that same little triad. This is going to make more sense as we get into it. So let's look at specifically what I'm playing. So now all of this is played on the first string, and this is coming up to the 7th fret. We go 7, 6, 5, and then we come down to the 3rd fret and slide into the 4th. Now all of that is really chromatically playing, so those are sort of passing notes. You can think of them that way. When I'm playing this, I was thinking about that triad, but I was also picturing E major pentatonic scale pattern 4. And you can see that that triad lives inside of your E major pentatonic scale pattern 4. So hopefully some light bulbs are going off for somebody out there and they're going, oh yeah, okay. I know my major pentatonic scale. Now I can see that little triad in there. So I can work in licks. And I can work in that triad into those licks. You see where I'm going with this? So now with this little chromatic thing, you get kind of a country, kind of jazzy sound. There's the triad. And then I come down to the 4th fret 3rd string and then land on that E note there, 5th fret 2nd string. And then a little country kind of pedal steel lick. This is just pattern 4 of my E major pentatonic scale. Full bend on the 7th fret 2nd string. Now here's where this whole 6 chord and 9 chord triad thing become really cool, because the next chord that happens is the F sharp. So you can see it's just taking your E chord and moving it up 2 frets. So think about the principle of what I was saying there with the 6 chord and the 9 chord. Let's go back to my E chord. So if this is my E, and where I've got these 2 fingers when I'm making that, if I put my index finger in that same fret on the 1st string, make the little stair step, I've got the 9, right? And then I go up 2 frets from there and I've got the 6. So connect that back to your chord shape, however, whatever makes best for you to connect it to. So think of that. Now let's apply that to this F sharp, which is the next chord. So where these 2 fingers are, we'll put my index finger there, make the stair step. That's now the F sharp 9 chord. So if I wanted to do the F sharp 6, I'd go up 2 frets from there. But what I ended up playing over the F sharp was that same triad that I used over the E, but when I play it now, it's an F sharp 9. Hopefully you can see that. And if you're confused by that, just rewatch this part of the video. You got to get that concept of major chord, 9 chord, 6 chord off of that major chord. Same thing here, major chord, 9 chord, right? So that 9, so the F sharp 9 is the E6. So the way that I played this, and I'm going to put the tab up and really not talk it through because there's just too many notes, but you can pause this and get it exactly, is like that, something like that. I think that's what I did. And you can see I went from this 9 chord, the F sharp 9 thing, down to my F sharp here, which is off of the E shape. And these are just sort of arpeggios off of these chord shapes. So now the song goes to the A chord, and I played. Right? So you can see the tab up on the screen and you can work out exactly what's going on there, but the bigger question is why? Why is that working? So A chord So like, what's going on? Where are these notes coming from? Well, I always ask myself, and you get sick of hearing me say this, but I'm always asking myself, where's the nearest neighbor to what I'm trying to do? So if there's an A chord, I could jump up and do A stuff up here. I could jump all the way up here and do A stuff up there, but it doesn't make sense. It's not efficient. So I know there's an A chord here and down in first position. I know that connected to that, I've got my A major pentatonic scale, pattern 1. That's the light bulb that went off for somebody. You go, oh, this lick. It's just A major pentatonic scale, pattern 1. So you can see what happened there. As the song went to the A chord, I switched into that A major pentatonic to play that part. And then the song goes to the B. And remember, the B is just up 2 frets from the A. It's up a whole step. So that means if this is my A chord and this is my A major pentatonic scale, if I go up 2 frets to my B major pentatonic scale is right here. So then the lick that I played for the B is right out of the B major pentatonic scale, pattern 1. And so I slid in on that 5th string from the 4th fret to the 6th fret, and then come up to the 4th string and go 4, 6, 4, and then hit, right out of that B triad. You can see the tab there. And then that pedal steel lick is where I'm picking on the 3rd string and doing a bend while plucking the 1st string. And I use my pinky to hold that down on 7th fret 1st string. And I do a bend at the same time, so you're hybrid picking that like this. So, and that just gives you that kind of pedal steel country. But walk away with this idea as being a lick that comes from, if you like that country thing and you want to work it into your playing, it's just your major pentatonic scale, pattern 1, right? And that's all connected to your chord shape. So if you can see your chord, if you can play a B chord using this shape here, and then you can get into your pentatonic scale, you can play that pedal steel lick. And all of those notes are coming right out of the major pentatonic scale for that. All right, so we were just playing the B chord, and the next chord after that is the E, which is our root. So when we were playing our B, I was here in this position, the B major pentatonic scale, pattern 1. So then I asked myself, since we're going to the E chord, where's my nearest E? Oh yeah, there's an E chord right here, using the C shape. And the nearest scale, like if I'm thinking major pentatonic scale, would be like that. So in that neighborhood, so I can do that's my E major pentatonic scale, pattern 4. And we actually were already touching on that for the very first lick. So all of this stuff is coming out of E major pentatonic scale. So I hit the E note and then I played that. This is a great lick. I think I got this from Vince Gill. But what we do is we do a full bend on the 7th fret 2nd string, and then pinky on the 7th fret 1st string, back to that bend while you're holding it, and then you switch it and go to the 5th fret 1st string, and then down to that note on the 2nd string and release it. That's kind of a tricky thing to do. So you do that, and then that's the next thing. A full bend on the 7th fret 1st string, and then back to the 7th fret 2nd string, bend and release. So, and then I played a little hammer-on pull-off. This is still E major pentatonic scale, pattern 4, between the 5th fret and 7th fret on the 2nd string, and then down to the 6th fret 3rd string. The last note is my E note on the 5th fret 2nd string. Okay, so we have now after that I went. Now this lick is connected to my E chord up here using the A shape. There's my E chord using the A shape. Here's the top part of that. this little triad. And so when I picture this triad, I can play those notes out of it. And that's where this lick comes from. Just picturing that triad. So on the second string, we're going to slide up to the 9th fret, starting at the 8th fret. And then we come to the 7th fret first string. And then 9, 7, do another little slide from the 8th to the 9th on the 2nd string. And then down to the 9th fret 3rd string. And all of that is just tracing that triad, that E triad, because we're still playing over the E part of the song. So after that lick, then watch this, I'm going to switch my hand position and play strings 2 and 3 on this 9th fret with my index finger. Now what I've done is I've gotten out of this position and gotten into this position, and what I'm thinking about is E major pentatonic scale pattern 1. So that triad there, in your A chord shape, that triad is inside of your E major, or inside of your major pentatonic scale pattern 1. Hopefully you're seeing that. So I just shifted, and then I can go do all this country pedal steel stuff like I did before. It's actually pretty much exactly what I did for the B, right? Because we were playing off of the B chord. It's not exactly the same notes per se, but it's the same idea, and it's coming out of the same position. So from my E, so we can go. I'm not sure exactly how I did. I'll put the tab up so you can get it specifically what I played there. But that's where it's coming from, is E major pentatonic scale pattern 1, and it's just shifting my hand. Right? So hopefully you can see that little shift. It changed everything just by switching from one shape into the other, and it's right beside it, so it's not hard to do. All right, so let me throw in one more awesome lick, and it's using the same principle of what we've talked about with the 6 and 9 chords. So now the song is going to go from the E chord to the F sharp. So we're back, repeating the song again. So the E chord I was playing was up here. I was in this position, this hand position, to play my E major pentatonic scale stuff. So then I asked myself, where's my nearest F sharp in this area? And I have one right here, using the A shape. And so the lick that I'm playing is coming out of that. So start with that just to sort of picture, get your bearings. So that's the lick we're going to look at. So it starts with this F, so remember it's the F sharp. It starts with me playing, or highlighting, really playing the arpeggio of the F sharp 7, which is here. These notes. The only difference is I slid into the first one. So that would be the 9th fret 5th string, but I started on the 8th fret. And then I walked up like this. But you can see that those notes are my F sharp 7 arpeggio. Now, this next thing is where it pivots. Listen to this. Okay, so it's pivoting to the F sharp 9 chord, using that little minor triad. So let's go back to the beginning of this video. Remember, we were playing our F sharp chord, right? And then I said, if you look at where, if this is using the E shape, so we're obviously playing in a different position, but same principle applies. So if you look at where these two fingers are and you put your index finger there, you've got that, and you play a minor triad there, you've got that 9 chord sound. Same is true up here. If I play this, same notes, look at that. It's that same triad, it's just played in a different position. You're borrowing the first 3 strings on the 9th fret, and then you've got your ring finger on the 11th fret 4th string. And you play those notes. That would be a C sharp minor triad, but that C sharp minor triad, if you play it with an F sharp, it sounds like a 9 chord. I'm not going to go into any more theory about it than that. You just have to trust me that inside of a 6 chord or inside of a 9 chord is a minor triad. And that's the minor triad. What's convenient about the positioning of this is here's my A shape. So now remember, that's an F sharp chord using the A shape. And that minor triad is right inside of it. So when I played this lick, from here, I'm just sliding into that minor triad, which is that 9 sound. Hopefully a light bulb is going off. You go, okay, it's the same thing. It's just, you know, you can do this all over the fretboard. And then up to the 12th fret 2nd string, and then I walked it up chromatically, 9, 10, 11 on the 2nd string. What am I thinking about when I'm playing that? The top part of the A shape. There's my F sharp chord. Here's the top part of the A shape. So I'm just going up to this note, walking it up chromatically. And then the rest of this is really just like F sharp 7 arpeggio stuff. I walked it down to the flat 7 and played my F sharp 7 chord. There's a little pull off there. I'll put the tab up for that so you can work that out with the tab. And played it like that. I'm going to wrap up this part 1 video right there. We've covered a lot of information. Come join us in part 2 where we'll go over the rest of this. There's a whole other part where it goes to the relative minor, which is a C sharp minor. And I'll talk about all of that. And then obviously you would have the tablature, you'd have the MP3 jam tracks, you'd have the on-screen tab viewer, which is just me playing with the video and tab on the screen at the same time. You can slow it down, loop it, all that stuff. And I like to keep plugging Active Melody because I know it can be really helpful to those of you that are serious about learning how to improvise on guitar. All right, we'll see you in part 2.